Hey, this is Gilly Woodhouse on the Osteo Business Podcast, talking all things osteo business. Here's Gilly Woodhouse, an author, speaker, award-winning business coach, and passionate advocate of osteopathy.
Hello. So today I am excited to be with Dr. Kim Brown in Melbourne, Australia, which is a rather splendid place, I have to say. And we're going to talk about all things mind and body today, I suppose. So Kim, when did we first get together? Because we've worked together and been in touch for years now. Was it about 2017-ish?
2017, 2018, somewhere
Something
around
like
there.
that. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Anyway, here
Some
we
years
are.
ago.
Yeah, some years ago. And I mean, tell me about your clinic back then. What was it like?
Well, a singular clinic in my home,
Mm-hmm.
but in the process of about to purchase another clinic. So that's why I reached out to you, because I was about to go into the scary world of having more than one place.
Right.
Was super familiar with running my own space, but that's inside my home. So that's easy. It was really because I was about to, be in control of other people, in charge of other people, and a commercial space. So it was about to be a very big, scary place.
Right. So we come up with a plan. We put the plan into action, and you are a doer, Kim. You're my favourite sort. You give you a job, and you come back 5 minutes later and say, "Done. What's next?" Love it.
I've always been that way. Tech stumps me a fair bit, but I'm happy to ask for help on that. The rest of it's just get it done. You've told me what to do, get it done. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in if you're going to ask for experts' advice, follow it. It's not hard.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes people don't. You'd be surprised to hear.
Well, it's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Mm, mm. It can be. But anyway, what I want to know is the connection between osteopathy and NLP. So you trained for whatever, 4 or 5 years to fix bodies, and then you went off to fix minds. So what did osteopathy alone not give you that sent you looking for more?
Yeah, look, osteopathy is fabulous. 5 years in Australia at the time when I studied. So it's a big commitment, but there's very little that they teach you about the mind-body stuff. We do learn about psychology, so learning about the comorbidities and things like that. So when someone's in chronic pain for a long period of time, how's that going to affect their mental health? But it was taught in a way that was all statistics and all of that sort of stuff. It wasn't, in my mind, practical on how to actually manage the patient and their emotions. We certainly didn't use the word emotions. It was very clinical and data-based, and that's not how humans are.
No.
So after years in practice, I really got to discover that my osteopathy training was not sufficient when it came to the emotional side of mind-body connection. Actually paying attention to the emotional side of the human. And when I learned NLP, really understanding how emotions are stored in the body, that certainly isn't taught in traditional osteopathy.
Wow. And so what does happen when emotions are stored in the body? What's going on? Where does it come from?
Depending on the emotion as to where it tends to get stored, there's a psychosomatic response. But the symptoms and all the rest of it, stress, tension, pain, discomfort, there's different ways that those emotions will show up as a symptom. It's not always just pain and tension. It can be other things. But what I was finding was when I was working with someone on my table is that the physical pain didn't seem to always be disappearing, regardless of what tricks I was using out of the toolbox. And it was when I learned NLP that I really managed to learn about asking better questions, asking deeper questions for the patient, so that way I could understand more things holistically about that patient. So the NLP connection really helped me firstly communicate better with the patient, from a language perspective and from a listening perspective, and from really being able to understand that person's communication and processing style, but also to be able to apply that from a perspective of chronic pain management and emotional management. I found that as a practitioner, that's really what we lacked, the emotional side of firstly being a practitioner. They don't teach you about emotional management of yourself and burnout and all of that sort of stuff as a practitioner. And they certainly don't teach you sufficiently when it comes to the mind-body connection of the actual patient too.
So tell me more about the way that those emotions are affecting the body, and maybe have you got any examples of that?
There's lots of different ways in which emotions stored in the body will play out as symptoms. So there's certainly a lot of connection between, what side of the body is related to masculine and feminine energies and things like that. There's also different, emotions that will, I don't want to use the word, damage or anything like that, but certainly affect certain organs in the body as well. There's lots of connections. What we find within NLP is that it's actually when you release the emotional stuff, the baggage, the deep-rooted emotional storage, if you like, that people have been hanging on to for 10, 20, 30 years. It's when that stuff gets released that we see the significant shift in their body. It's like they've got lighter. It's like they've actually been able to breathe again for the first time in ages. It's like there's this weight lifted off the shoulders. And some patients will actually describe it as that, like, oh my God, I can actually breathe again. And what's changed in that moment was emotional release, not hands-on work. So this is where, when you work with people with NLP coaching, it's not a hands-on experience. So it's a talk therapy experience. But you can physically see the shift in people, and they will describe it to you. Now, when you combine NLP and hands-on as well, you've got some magic going on there, because you've got the opportunity to be able to really help people let go of the stuff they've been hanging on to and be able to feel that and help them release it mechanically.
And can you say about, like, how do we hold on to this? Because we don't want to hold on to any of this rubbish, do we? But how do we end up doing that? Like, not just getting over something at the time and brushing it off and moving on. How come it ends up like within us, holding us down, like the baggage that you described?
Well, it's literally our programming. We are programmed from the start, from young, to not speak up, to swallow our thoughts, so to speak. Children should be seen and not heard. So from the beginning, society is built around not expressing their emotions. Back in the day, boys shouldn't cry. So there was a lot of discouragement for anyone to actually express how they feel. If anyone showed their feelings of anger, people would object to that because, they're very angry and you shouldn't show that sort of emotion in public. So from a really young age, we learn to suppress. So we learn to hide how we really feel. I describe it like it's almost like we're shoving those emotions in a pocket, hoping that we can deal with them later. We actually don't get to express them. It's also not really, from a society perspective, appropriate to just blurt out all the emotions that you may be feeling at the time. So instead of expressing that sadness or expressing that anger or expressing that frustration, we swallow it, so to speak. We suppress it. And during that suppression, the emotional system, the nervous system, hasn't had the opportunity to actually let it out and actually express it in its entirety. So it gets suppressed or repressed, which in turn stores in the system. So when we're younger, there's not that much that we're holding on to, but you can imagine accumulating that over the years. And this is where the term grumpy old man comes from. Old men aren't necessarily grumpy, but they've had 50, 60, 70 years experience of not really saying how they feel, or not really being able to fully express themselves because it's socially inappropriate to blurt out when they're angry, or blurt out when they're frustrated, or blurt out when they're sad. So instead of behaving the way their emotions feel, they change their behavior to fit into society and make it acceptable for other people around them and more comfortable for other people. But in turn, they've suppressed that emotion. They've held it down. Eventually it bottles up. And we know ourselves, sometimes we can get to a point we feel like we're that volcano ready to explode, and it takes one tiny little thing. It could be an unpleasant email, or it could be a look that someone gives you. It could be anything, something so minor, but it kind of tips you over the edge because you're so built up in your system that one little extra thing sets off the explosion, because most people haven't allowed themselves to express their emotion when it happens. They've suppressed it. And in suppressing, stored.
Wow, that explains a lot. So
it's why people need to clear their throat as soon as they go to speak. They're actually needing to get rid of some of their emotional feelings or fear at that time. Not everyone likes to speak in public, so they've got to get themselves ready. It's not just physically clearing their throat, it's actually priming their throat to speak, as in speak the truth, because a lot of the time they haven't been able to speak the truth or speak their truth because we filter everything we say, or most things we say. We certainly filter because we have been conditioned to not say what we think. We've got to say what we think others want us to say.
Isn't it? And yeah, you can get punished for saying the wrong thing as a youngster. So I guess that is a skill that's been learned, and as an adult, you probably don't even know you're doing it.
You've been programmed from the beginning, and whilst a lot of that programming is necessary from a perspective of being able to fit into society and being a good human, and having manners and having acceptable behaviors, there's a lot of programming that's actually beyond what is necessary and almost goes into the control side of things. Especially like in schools, there's rules and regulations of how you need to sit and how you need to perform and how you need to act. That doesn't mean that every child at school is actually expressing how they feel and they're expressing their own personalities. They're being conformed into, neat little obedient students to follow the rules so society, accepts them.
Yeah.
If you have one that's not performing the way that they're expected to perform, they're seen as interruptive or overactive or something else. And they then have rejection or labeled or anything like that because they are different or separate to what society is expecting from them. So we do learn from a very young age how to perform for acceptance, and how to perform for love from our parents, and how to perform for all other sorts of things that enables us to be part of society
and survive, I suppose. Ultimately,
all geared to survival.
Yeah, and it's since having two boys myself, who weren't crazily overactive, but were boys nonetheless. I always thought school was so difficult for them, that having to sit for long periods of time is just not a thing that boys naturally can do. Usually they're more big muscle stuff, aren't they? They're out there climbing, running around, and I do feel for them actually, because that must be a huge learning curve for them to be able to do as they're told and stick within the rules and not get up till the bell goes or whatever it is.
And it's not how humans are naturally meant to be. We're not really designed to sit cross-legged, facing the front in rows and, hold your tongue and all those sort of things. We're programmed to do that, but we're not designed to do that. So you're exactly right. Young boys struggle every day with this sit and be quiet business because that's not their natural energy field. They want to run amok, not because they're not well behaved. They've just got a lot of energy and they need to express that. They need to go run and jump and, climb a tree and kick a ball and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the schooling system dictates how many minutes they can do that for per day, and the rest of the time they're meant to sit and behave and learn. And the schooling system even changed so much, and depending on what country you're in, there used to be rest time at schools where children could actually nap in class. That's been taken out of a lot of schools, so you're expecting the children to behave and learn for 6 hours straight with a dash of lunch break. And you wonder why they're ratty. You wonder why they're, highly energetic beings that just need to move their physical body and then have some downtime and reset time.
Yeah.
But it's just not the way the schooling system allows them to be within their nature.
And then they get themselves a nice label.
And then we medicate them to sit them still.
Yeah. We've got a crazy 3-year-old grandson. He comes in like a tornado. and when he leaves, we go, what happened?
But that's the thing, like they're just energetic creatures. Let them be energetic and, allow that to be done in a safe and fun and curious way rather than having to contain it.
Yeah, because the outcome then is that adult is not anywhere near the vibrant character that they might have been, which they were showing at an early age before they got dumbed down by rules and meds in some cases.
Absolutely. And that's part of that suppression I was talking about earlier, is if they're naturally a really excitable, curious, vibrant personality, yet that didn't really work for society, so we needed to contain you or medicate you or dumb you down in some way and stick you in a box so that way you could be more pleasant for other people. The adult version of that is not anywhere close to what would have happened had that child been able to express their energy in a much nicer way.
It's sad, isn't it? I can't bear to think of these sort of things happening to little ones because, when you see them like that, our 3-year-old, just being who they are, they are enchanting, much as they are also exhausting. But they are exploring life with such verve and gusto, and and he's not far away from getting into the school road, and I can only imagine the teenager that pops out the other end who's half the character perhaps that he is now, and then living with that.
Yeah. Well, I work with a lot of adults that have got the ADHD label because that's a very common diagnosis these days, because people are understanding it more and help is more readily available. And I work with many of these beautiful souls, and they do express the whole suppression thing, the fact that, they were these cheeky, vibrant young people that just needed to explore life, generally at tornado speed. And because other people were unable to manage that well with their own energy levels, then they did get suppressed and very much encouraged to calm down and effectively become someone they're not in order for everyone else around them to be more comfortable. And I can understand why society requires that and why parents absolutely require that. It's just that when you work with those people later in life where they are trying to release some stuff that's been pent up because their energy levels have been very much contained, there's a very interesting story behind it. And it is, it's how a lot of this stuff gets stored because they haven't been able to express their natural emotions. They've had to pop them in the pockets and hope that they don't need to come out at some point, and eventually they'll explode.
Yeah, because that's exhausting, isn't it? It's just so unnatural. Yeah, there's so much in the conditioning of, like you say, families and societies and everything. And, managing that tornado child is not easy. I know his parents are exhausted.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, no one really has the answer for it or the right answer because there's different answers for everyone.
Mm.
I just know that if we allowed these kids to run around a little bit more and have more natural energy consumption at school or in a safe place at home, it would just help them get their energies out. I mean, we literally take our dog to the park so they can do zoomies because he's only just over a year old and he needs to be able to run around like an absolute lunatic.
Yeah.
And then once he's done that, he's a great dog. But you've got to allow him that time to just be bullet a gate crazy. And in the home, you can't do that because the space is not sufficient for him to have that, free run. So take him to the park, off you go. He runs around you like a mad idiot for, 10 rounds. And then comes back to you, goes, I'm good to go now.
That's a great analogy, actually, because that's what it is like with those little ones. They have got to go hell for leather down the park, get on the climbing frame, on the swings, up the slide and everything. And that used to be something. I come from a family of girls, so like having boys was like, hang on, what do I do with these? But I did sort of soon learn that, the big muscles were the important thing, that they needed to get out and to release that energy. And then they'd come back and sure, then they'd sit down and eat their tea. But they did need that, a good old run out pretty much every day.
Absolutely.
They'd start going stir crazy. And don't ask them to sit there and colour in the lines on a colouring book. It's just not happening.
No. I mean, when we were kids, we climbed trees.
Yeah.
We were down the park. You didn't see us until the street lights went on, and that was the cue to come home. We certainly didn't just sit home and colour in. That wasn't going to happen straight away. And we certainly didn't have screen time, so it's not like that existed. So we were highly encouraged to get outside and go and use your muscles. So that way you were physically tired enough to come home and be more compliant, and calmer.
Yeah.
But kids of today often don't have that opportunity to run and jump and do all those things because they go from schooling time to screen time.
Yeah.
They may have some sports available to them, but not every day. And parents are so busy that, do they just play in the backyard and do they have much of a backyard? So there's such a shift from when we grew up to what's happening now that it's no surprise there's some tornado kids that need to go do zoomies in the park and they just don't have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point, actually. And so you got into NLP yourself. And did you do that tell me why you did that, because I'm interested to know.
Literally the reason I wanted to learn NLP was because I wanted to let go of procrastination. It was my sole purpose. At the time, I actually had no awareness that I was going to get a coaching certification at the same time. I didn't really know that that's what was included. All I wanted to do was get rid of procrastination. At the time, I've now got 2 clinics happening. My hands are already starting to fail. fail's a strong word, but my hands were already starting to show signs of, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
And that was really my awareness that I need to have passive income streams. And at the time, I was very interested in doing online products. So back pain products, pregnancy back pain products. I had all of this knowledge that I wanted to share through some form of online product. But lo and behold, I was procrastinating significantly on it. And what I didn't know at the time, until I learned NLP and discovered the deeper root cause, it was actually because of my inner crappy belief around my voice and around how I sound and around how I speak, which back at the time I used to put on a phone voice because I unconsciously was recognizing how deep my voice is and I didn't want to show that to the world. So I was literally procrastinating, aka self-sabotaging, because of my deep inner bitch of a voice that was happening about my own voice. So because I've got a deeper voice, which I now know is an asset because it's, you know, such a deep teaching, booming voice, I had so many limiting beliefs around what I sounded like that lo and behold, I was putting off all of this creation of these products because I didn't want to be heard. So when I learned NLP, I'm like, right, I'm going to get rid of this procrastination and it's going to help me transform the world. And I'm going to get out there and all my products are going to sell like hotcakes. What I learned in that NLP course transformed my thinking so significantly that I made a new decision. And the new decision was, I'm going to use this voice that I was gifted with to be able to teach others to do the same. And it was in that week that I learnt amazing skills, the timeline therapy, the NLP coaching, the practitioner skills. I was blown away by what I learnt. I could not believe that in such a short period of time, I could have learnt a significant rewiring of my own programming and how to help others do the same. And it was literally on the plane on the way home. So I'd flown interstate to learn my course. On the plane on the way home, I typed out a breakthrough program because I went, I've learned all these phenomenal skills and I need other people to know how to do it. And I typed out a 6-week breakthrough program and a discovery call template.
Wow.
Because I realized in that time, I'm a singular person. It's great for me to want to help others, but we've got a lot of screwed up people in this world. We need more people to do this. So it was literally in those aha and epiphany moments that when we're not procrastinating anymore, we're getting out there and we're doing this thing called coaching. And it was at the airport before I even got on the flight that I was on Facebook doing a live video, literally in the queue as we were checking in, that I was on this live video, you know, going, I've just learnt this phenomenal stuff. I'll tell you more about it when I get home and all that sort of stuff. You know, I just had to share. And I'm like, am I using my voice online willingly?
Interesting.
Okay, something's changed. And then it was on the flight that I was typing out this stuff because I'm like, right, I'm prepared, I'm getting ready, and I'm going to start working with clients straight away. I didn't know how or where or whatever. And that all seemed completely irrelevant. And it was the very next day back in Melbourne, you know, lit up. And I got on this live on Facebook and I went for 22 minutes, probably didn't take a breath. And I had so many people reach out to me, go, what on earth has happened? You look different. You sound different. What is happening? Whatever you're taking, I want some. And it was from there that my coaching business launched. And like I said, no intentions of becoming a coach, but I was just so passionate about what I'd learned that all I wanted to do was help others go through the same process, help them let go of that inner bitch of a voice that's telling you can't do something because of some unconscious block that I developed when I was about 6 or 7. All over my voice. The irony is hilarious, right?
Yeah.
So here I was.
Some bitchy kid who said, oh, you sound like a boy, or something stupid, probably, that's
Guaranteed.
put
And
that
because,
little nugget in there.
yeah, and I grew up with Kim Hughes and Merv Hughes, famous Australian cricketers in the Australian cricket team while I was growing up. So they were on the TV. Merv was the more famous one, but his brother Kim, KYM,
Uh,
uh, was in the TV and was on the TV enough that Kim was known famously as a male name. So when Kim I am was coming along as a female name, of course there was this boy girl unisex name thing that I've obviously downloaded, and then having a deeper, stronger voice. I guarantee at some point in time I was teased for being, you know, a boy or a boy's name or something like that. I guarantee there's something in there.
yeah.
And I remember being called a tomboy, but probably not thinking too much about it at the time. But of course, it's not what we think, it's what we download. It's the beliefs that we download. And then, of course, if you have anything in your world that reminds you of that belief, it gets reinstalled, 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 reinstalled. So we end up living our life based on this unconscious belief that gets re-embedded and reprogrammed so often that it becomes part of your identity, part of your belief system. So what I discovered through NLP was I had this unconscious belief, was not aware of it, because if we were aware of it, we would have fixed it already. I
Yeah.
just assumed I had procrastination, right? Procrastination was my symptom. But what I was able to uncover through this NLP course was realizing that my procrastination was because of my crappy belief around not being heard, not wanting to be heard because of my voice, or my perception of my voice. So therefore I was deliberately sabotaging and holding myself back because I didn't want these programs to be out in the real world with my real voice being heard.
I do recall something of you pulling back around that time, actually. Now we're talking about it. It just wasn't quite ready, wasn't quite right. And that's a good telltale, isn't it? That, you know, with this hanging back. I do come across this quite a bit. You know, it's time to get your marketing done now. We've done it. We've done all the systems. We've got everything sorted. Oh yeah, I'm just thinking about it. I'm going to plan it out. I'm just like, get out there today. Today. There's people waiting for you. They need you. They don't yet know who you are, where you are, or how you can help them. Let's get out there today. And you know, and thankfully it doesn't happen too often. And I've always got stories of how to get over that. You know, that fear of the whole world's judging me, and my peers in particular are going to be ripping me to pieces, which is just so untrue. But that's what goes through our minds.
Oh, it's a huge one. The fear of what other people think is one of the biggest blockers in human nature,
Yeah.
because we are so programmed from the early age, as we've discussed, that you need to be part of your community, part of your cohort. You need to fit in. And if you dare to do anything that may be separate to that fitting in, there's huge amounts of fear attached to that, not just from the judgment, but will I be rejected? Will I be cast out? You know, if back in the day, if you were different to anyone else, you were burnt at the stake. Like, there were big stakes for being different.
Yeah.
So it's so programmed within our anatomy, within our nature, to fit in, that of course, as soon as you want to do something unique or online or for yourself, or that's more than you've already done before. So if you're not normally an online person that gets out there and does marketing, and you start doing it, guarantee you're going to have all that inner voice going, oh, what will they think of that? And will they judge me? Or did I get it right? And I know with all the osteopaths I've worked with, massive fear of their peers for what if they get a fact wrong, or what if someone judges them on their knowledge, or what if I can't answer that question? And it's like, you're a human. You're not an encyclopedia. You're not meant to know everything. I mean, you're well educated, but it doesn't mean you know everything. But I know that they literally hold themselves back just in case someone asks one question that I might not know. And it's like, you're holding yourself back based on this inner voice of things that'll probably never happen.
Yeah, that my experience is it doesn't. I can think of like one incident uh, after 13 years and 1,100 clients, like where someone, needed a slap. He called out somebody on a comment on a comment on a post, and I just thought, what a foul little creature that was. Like, no, it's not. He wasn't even in the same country as this girl.
Yeah.
Like, what's it got to do with him? But there's a 0.1% chance that some Egypt is going to say something, but that's it. It's so remote.
It's so minor, and the reality is most other people can see through that crap anyway. So
Yeah,
if that one comment is holding you back from getting out there and actually exposing your business to potential new clients, you need to get over that.
yeah.
And it was super interesting. Just last week, I'd done a workshop with a group of small business owners about sales, and I love talking about sales. And then I ended up doing a live video the very next day, put out to LinkedIn and Instagram and, all the other places, etc. And it got the most views that it's had, that my stuff's had in ages. And it's because I asked the question, effectively, why are you scared of selling? And it got so many comments on the different platforms, and it really opened my eyes again, like, keeps opening my eyes to these are wonderful, highly educated small business owners, whether they're osteopaths, whatever their thing is.
Yeah.
They're so passionate about what they do, yet this whole fear of selling because I might get rejected or someone might whinge about my prices, or, it literally can destroy businesses. And when I reflected on my journey, I'm like, I was almost prepared to not put myself out there based on my fear of my voice.
Yeah.
Like at the time, I was doing a lot of other types of marketing, imagery, and all the rest of it, because no one can hear your voice when you just put a meme up. But it's such a small percentage of people that are going to get anywhere by just putting memes up or just putting pictures up. You actually need to put yourself and your personality out there. But when I recognized my journey and the fear of being heard because I didn't like the sound of my own voice, I'm like, wow, I know how many other practitioners are not putting themselves out there because they don't want to be seen or heard or judged or rejected. And the thing is, the chances of any of that happening is so minuscule, but it means that they're missing out on the opportunity of being in front of all those people that they actually could help, the people they could actually impact. They're so scared of what could go wrong that they're not paying enough attention to what could go right.
You're so right there. And I'm always saying people buy people. And, the amount of Facebook pages or Instagram pages I'll see with a logo in the circle, not a little face. Like, no, I'm not going to buy into a logo. I need to know who that is, because as I'm always on about, we need to know, like, and trust a manual therapist in particular, because it's our bodies we're taking in there to be sorted out. And well, mostly people don't know about that practitioner because they're not doing their marketing, but we'll also decide if we like them, because we cannot be liked by everyone. And that's quite kind of a hard truth, isn't it, that we just, it's not possible for everybody to like one person. I always use Princess Diana as the example. Like, some people really hated her, and I mean, I personally loved her. I thought she was amazing. But there's always going to be the other side of the coin where people just go, oh, I see what she's doing there, which I couldn't see, and I thought she was terribly nice. And so the same thing happens with all of us, universally. And then, of course, we get to the trust thing as well. And if you don't have the like, they're not coming. End of. And if they don't trust that you know what you're doing and you're not going to make them worse, given that they've maybe been in pain a long time, huge thing. And that's the nub of it, really, is that getting out there enough. It was the same for you as it was for me, like getting out there the first time. I'm sure our first videos were pretty horrific.
I
Absolutely sure.
occasionally look at them just to remind me how far I've come.
Yes, yes.
And that's the thing, communication is the key.
Mm,
When you want people to know, like, trust you, it comes down to communication.
you're right.
Because if you've had miscommunication, that's where conflict comes from. And this is one thing I learned through NLP, because NLP is all about learning communication.
Mm,
When you understand how to listen to your patients better, when you learn to read their bodies better, and I'm not just talking about symptoms, I'm talking about them as a whole, not just their broken bits, but all of their body, including their emotions. You want to get know, like, trust deeper, then you need to know how to communicate with them better. And a huge chunk of our communication is nonverbal.
yes.
It's the way we hold ourselves. It's the way we present ourselves. It's how we stand. It's our gestures. It's all sorts of things. The words we say are the smallest component.
Isn't it 7%?
7% is the actual words. 57% is our physiology. So 57% of our communication is based on our bodies.
Which is incredible.
So isn't it wise that you learn how to actually read the bodies from a communication perspective too, not just how to take a history? Because what I've found with a lot of the practitioners I've worked with, people are so busy staring at their computer while they're taking a history, they're not even paying attention or enough attention to their client. And your client will give you everything you need,
all the clues,
based on what you see, what you hear, and you haven't even put hands on yet. The communication that they've given you just by coming in the door gives you heaps. But so many practitioners are simply not trained well enough to read all that. You know, we get taught how to watch people walk. We get taught how to take a good note to make sure we don't get sued.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the in-betweeners? What about the communication that actually counts in order for us to gain the know, like, trust of the client before they come in the door, and then really gain it when they have come in the door?
Yeah, it's like a whole other layer, isn't it, of the work, and digging down into finding out a little bit more about why they've ended up in this state, whatever that is, and and how you might be able to help them back out of that.
Their bodies tell you huge amounts of information if you've learned how to read them. In osteopathy world, we're taught how to read them based on their posture and position and stance and the way they move or don't move. But in NLP, you learn all the other stuff, the stuff that's not said. And I believe, and my experience tells me, that that's even more important.
Yeah.
Since I've learned NLP, the amount of people that have said to me, have you got a spy camera in here? Are you in my brain? And it's like, well, actually, no, your body just tells me everything I need. And then I will ask even better questions to clarify something that I've already picked up on. It's not magic. It's just that next layer of knowledge. And in my opinion, a very important layer, because communication is the basis of all relationships. Patient-client, parents, bosses, other half. Communication's everything. Yeah. And without it, the relationships don't exist, or not properly.
And asking those HQQs, high quality questions that are going to go straight in.
And not being afraid to ask them. I think that's a lot of the issue we have too, is sometimes we're afraid to ask more direct questions or deeper questions for fear of offending.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting being inappropriate, but I am suggesting if someone's come to you for help, you actually need to ask the questions you need to know the answer to so you can get to the truth, so you can get to the depth of the truth. And that's one thing I've got far better at since learning NLP is actually being able to ask the question under the question.
Yeah.
I'm asking what I really want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not being afraid to ask it, not having that little inner chit chat going on with, oh, are they going to reject me for asking this? There's a good chance I'll get a response because I'm asking a question that is deep. But providing you've got that rapport, it's quite safe to ask that. And if anything, it actually becomes relieving for the person that you have asked it because they feel understood. They're like, oh my goodness, they get me. Yeah, I do.
Probably for the first time.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. I feel like you get me. Yeah, I do.
Really? Yeah, because you're
where that
seeing the whole.
comes in.
Yeah, you're seeing the whole person though, aren't you? Because of that extra training.
Absolutely.
And so tell me more about that, the actual training. I've just done it with you recently, and wow, it's intense and mind-blowing. And I needed to sit down with a strong cup of tea after. But it was, because I've been on the other end of it as well. So we've worked together to help release some of my stuff, baggage, which helped enormously. And then doing the course with you, Kim, it was just great to do it with just a small number of us. So obviously you go in feeling a little bit vulnerable, and wondering, like, I don't really want to, vomit my poor childhood over everybody to have to listen to. But actually, you don't actually need to do any of that, do you? That's the beauty of it. You don't have to say, when I was 3, my mother slapped me and I've never been able to swim since, or whatever the hell it is, It's the questions are so well defined that you just go there in your mind, and you don't have to vomit it out everywhere. You can remain private, actually. I mean, I sort of talk about everything anyway, but there are times when you do just you say, oh my God, because you go, aha, now I get it. And so sometimes you do want to just say, oh my God, that's where that comes from, because you've suddenly joined the dots that haven't made sense your whole life.
That's the beauty of the course, is getting all of the unraveling, all of the unpacking of all the old stuff, but without having to relive the why it's there.
Yeah, because I've done other counselling, Kim, where you talk it all out, you get through 3 boxes of tissues, and then you go out feeling worse than you came in, because you're like, you didn't really want to wade through all that all over again.
Exactly. And that's the difference between NLP timeline therapy and traditional counseling. We work with the unconscious mind. It's about opening Pandora's box, but not reliving it. You open it to release it, not open it to relive it. And there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
In the course, if you don't want to share your stuff, you don't have to. It's not about the stuff. It's about the belief systems that was created because of the stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by the question under the question. We do not need to go, what's in the box? We do need to find out what belief is being created because of the crap in the box. So we care about the I'm not good enoughs and the I'm not worthies and the fear of failures and the fear of success, but not how that came about.
Yeah.
The fact that you were slapped as a 3-year-old and all the rest of it, that part is the content. and the content is irrelevant unless you want to share it. If you want to share it, it's a safe place. If it's not something you want to share, it's not relevant either. That's up to you. And what we find is that students feel more comfortable as the days pass, where they actually want to share, but it's not necessary to share. And even
I think
when
that's
you're
an
working,
important distinction, isn't it? Because you have that possibility of not. You don't have to share any stuff from your childhood or anything else. Sometimes, some really deep, horrific stuff in someone's past, and who wants to dig that out and look at it again? But the fact that you can get underneath that,
yes,
and sort those beliefs out that have then become part of the person because of the instance, or just general life. I think that is the best bit about it, is that literally you do not have to share or wade through all of that stuff all over again that you've probably been suppressing all your life.
If you've had the worst day of your life happen, and you may have had it happen, at age 4 and then at age 7 and then at age 12, the last thing you want to do is turn up to a group course and go, "Hi, my name's Kim and I've had the worst thing happen to me ever." It's not an AA class. It's not a session like that where you need to divulge your stuff. It's a learning environment where you learn the skills to be able to unlock that stuff, firstly for yourself and secondly for other people, should you choose to go into the coaching world. You're taught how to do that, but that does not mean you need to stand up in front of any group to divulge your stuff. If you want to share, by all means, there's appropriate times where sharing is okay, but it's not a requirement. And I make sure it's not a requirement because over the years, I've had people with all sorts of background histories that half the time it's too traumatic to even want to bring it to the group.
Yeah.
Because the group doesn't need to hear it. It's not just about the human that's experienced it, but it is appropriate for the group to hear such trauma. So it's not a requirement. And nor would I want it to be a requirement, because that may hold people back from learning the skills for fear that they'd have to actually divulge their stuff. No. It is very common that I will have conversations with people before they come into the course so I understand their history. But that does not mean I need to know their deepest, darkest secrets. A lot of the time in those sort of conversations, I will understand some of the deepest, darkest stuff if people are wanting to share. And it also enables me to just understand that sometimes I might want to help keep people safe in that environment. If there are triggering conversations happening, it is wise that I do know some people's history. But it's not a history that needs to be shared with the group. I prefer to know, at least a surface level layer of everybody's stuff, so that way I've got an understanding. If some conversations are heading onto certain topics, then I can rein it in and make sure it doesn't go down any rabbit holes that may trigger some people. So, it's wise that I know some stuff, but that doesn't mean the group needs to hear it. It does not mean it's a share session unless you want it to be. But what you would have experienced, as most students do, is the ahas, that as you go like, whoa, that's where that came from. Oh my goodness, that's been there since I was 3.
Yeah.
No wonder it's heavy. And you understand the heaviness of that baggage because it's been there for some time. But that doesn't mean you need to relive it to untangle it and let it go.
I think that's the beauty of it. And just seeing the faces and the posture and demeanor of some of the other students, just seeing them drop something. And I mean, I'll never forget one girl on your training that came back into my business group, and I literally went, "What have you done with Sue?" She was a different girl, like the weight that she had held before, that sort of slightly down face, and oh, I can't do that because, and she went on to completely change her life, which was incredible. Like she moved from one side of the country to the other. She did this like huge things that she'd wanted to do, but she'd been holding herself back from doing. No doubt, oh, you can't because of the economy, you can't because of this, you can't because of that, whatever excuses our little brains come up with to make it all nice and tidy, and we can't do what we fancy doing. And I mean, she's just completely different girl. She's transformed, and she's living the life she wanted to live now. She's allowed herself to.
Yes.
And I mean, I just find, you know, that, and I've seen different levels of this with people I've known that have worked with you, and then they've come back to me, and I'm like, oh, this person's lighter, brighter.
Yeah, there can be some phenomenal transformations. And it, you know, day one, I get every student to write down, what are your goals for the training and why have you come? And I recall the person you're talking about, her goals were huge, but she looked at me and went, but that'll never happen, you know, that sort of attitude. And I went, good to know. We'll revisit this at the end. And of course, you know, just a few days later, and she's like, oh, it's ready to happen now. And it's like, well, yeah, because all that really needed to happen was reframing all of that stuff that was in the way, preventing you from going and doing what you've been thinking is a good idea, but little inner bitch wants to have a chat and keep you small, because we are wired for survival. Yes. We're not wired to thrive. So we actually have to do a little rewiring in order to get the survival side of us to just step aside a little bit. It'll always work, but it shouldn't be the primary and dominant belief system. Let's actually start thriving. Let's live, not just survive.
Yeah. So true. And yeah, I mean, gosh, how many people end up just living a small life because that inner bitch is going, you know, no, not now. It's not the right time. You're the wrong age. You're in the wrong place. You can't because the kids, this, that, and the other. And, you know, look, life spins by super fast.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many people are sitting in their old folks' home, you know, that never came to much because all this stuff was in the way, and, you know, that they didn't thrive. They didn't achieve their potential, which has always been in my own mind since I was quite young, was like, just like, what could I do with my life has always been in my head. And that's how I've ended up in a very circuitous manner in this role, which I absolutely adore. And, you know, I wake up with another chapter from a book in my head pouring out of me, and it's just like, oh, I haven't talked about this, I haven't talked about that, and it, you know, that's what drives me. But I've had to unpick some of this, hence working with you in the past, to I think you can sort of bump up against a barrier, and then go, oh yeah, but who am I? Yeah, but I'm not even an osteopath. Right? Who do I think I am? Yeah, but what if the fact that I'm not is my greatest asset? What if I'm the patient looking in, going, you're making this really difficult for me to book in. I can't find out about you. I don't know where you are. There's no booking. You know, why? Of course you're not busy. And it's, yeah, all the business threads that you know, I've been in so many different businesses over the decades, and I'm constantly thinking, gosh, what I learned back then. Or like, for instance, I used to work in Hanover Square in commercial property, and there was a lot of big companies in that area in the centre of London, and and I distinctly remember, I think it was in the early 90s, big recession, and the big companies were absolutely axing their marketing departments. And I remember thinking back then, that's crazy. That's how you tell people what you do, who you are, and what you offer. And they axed it. And then they wondered why their sales went through the floor. And then they wondered why they got bought out by some aggressive bigger company. It was huge back then. And it was just like, that was the lesson. Like, I spotted, what are they doing? Why are they, why not, sure, strip some people out, some roles, etc., because you had to tighten your whole operation up because business was tough. But it was just incredible how, that was the one thing that struck me then. And I can bring that in now. Like, even if we got a recession, even if we think nobody's got money, there's still money, there's still business. You just have to go into John Lewis and see the place is rammed with people. And, well, we're on the subject of money. I'm always saying, they're still going and buying their tattoos. They're still going and buying the Rolls Royce of prams that cost eye-watering amounts. They're still going getting their nails done every week or buying the designer handbag. So they're choosing, and we'll bring this back round to practice where people say, no one's got any money at the moment. It's just not true. And, we can't put my fees up. There's a good one. Because, nobody will pay £5 more.
I laugh at that. Yeah, there's plenty of money, and the some of the most successful companies on the planet have been created through recessions.
Yes.
So it's not a lack of money, it's a lack of vision from the person who's running it. And from a practitioner perspective, pain is a massive driver. If you're in pain, you want it fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to be seen. If you're the world's best kept secret, people aren't going to come to you anyway. So, of course, you can put your fees up. Lo and behold, that's what business is. You're not going to lose anybody. And if you do, you're losing the people that weren't valuing your services in the first place. And lo and behold, you might actually gain some more because your prices are now where they should be or closer to where they should be, because people buy based on value perception. If you're too cheap, they'll go, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So it's all about the inner beliefs. If you have crappy inner beliefs, your business will show that. Your business will vomit that to the world, because ultimately, whatever the head CEO, practitioner, or the CEO of a company, whatever they believe, that's what gets vomited to the world. And if that's no one will pay for my services, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, you're going to put that out there.
Yeah, so true. So, Kim, I could talk to you all day long.
Yes.
Tell us, how can we work with you? What have you got coming up? Tell me everything.
Yeah, so NLP mastery programs are the key programs I run. So practitioner and master practitioner courses. For my, face-to-face people, there is face-to-face options. For my more abroad people, there's online options as well. So Gilly did my UK-friendly timeframe NLP course. And we do run them a couple of times a year. So ultimately, drkimbrown.com is where you find all my services available. There's other options there for those who are not necessarily wanting certification, but just want that breakthrough. So there's options available. If I was ever to suggest, it is the NLP practitioner course, because you get the ahas that come with it, not just the breakthrough. So you get the lessons, the learnings, the knowledge, the understanding, and the paper to be able to work with other people, even if you choose not to do that straight away. Not everyone chooses to do coaching straight away. Some people want to be able to let that be a later thing, and that's okay. But the NLP practitioner course is the game changer for sure.
Yeah.
So jump on drkimbrown.com, reach out to me. We can have a conversation. I always prefer a conversation first, so that way we just get to know each other a little bit. Doesn't have to be a sales call. I'm not going to push you into anything because I don't do salesy, manipulative calls. That's not my style.
Mm-hmm.
We just have a chat.
Yeah.
We have a chat and work out the best way forward. But look, NLP transformed my life, and Gilly's seen it firsthand, and with many of her clinic owners that have come and seen and participated in what we do. It is next level.
It is indeed. I find it's extraordinary. And like I say, yeah, the transformations I've witnessed is enough, that and in myself, I've definitely felt those shifts myself from doing the work, and it's freeing. It just means you rid yourself of those blocks that don't belong there, that aren't part of you, and then that allows you to move forward and live your fullest life, really, without having to relive any of that stuff that would be painful, perhaps.
Absolutely. Stop driving forward, looking in the rear vision mirror.
Oh yes, that's
Time to look forward.
That is exactly it. Thank you so much, Kim. It's been delightful to catch up and talk about NLP a bit more, and I'm sure we'll be working together in the future anyway.
Again. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gilly.
Thanks for listening to the Osteo Business Podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all Gilly's channels, which can be found in the show notes. Gilly's back soon with more tips, ideas, and strategies to build your thriving practice.